Well, good morning, everybody. I didn't want to do music intro, even though I think I figured out the Facebook algorithm that cancels out my music choices, what goes and what doesn't. But this morning I didn't want to take a chance. It's a very, very important video. I'm going to ramble a little bit for about a minute and a half because that's how long it takes everybody to get on, people to get alerted and get in. Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for what's important. This is a video, very, very important. The results of a by-election right here in Canada, in the province of Alberta, in the regional elections for the provincial level of governance. Fort McMurray, Lac La Biche. The results are staggering, impressive. There's a lot of reasons for that. We're going to talk about that this morning. But we're going to get into much, much more viability going forward for Alberta and absolutely the rest of Canada. A change from what we've been seeing in loss after loss after loss in federal politics, provincial politics across the board. We're watching loss after loss, no matter which party you seem to elect. But now everybody, we have a leader coming forward, someone I know who's near and dear to me, someone who mentored me, and you know what? It's a second chance for that first-class job needing to be done right here in Canada. Somebody has to lead, somebody has to make a difference. We're going to get into that this morning. We're going to talk about the election, the results, the whopping transformation, the huge loss for NDP and literally everybody else. Paul Hinman did very well in that election. I see people are starting to log on, so I think we'll start going and we'll see as numbers grow. Okay, so everybody, Brian Jean wins a resounding victory in last night's by-election in Fort McMurray, Lac La Biche. Not a small win. It was a 2/3 majority with eight candidates in the running, 8 different parties, 1 independent, I should say. But we saw all the players. We saw Independence Party of Alberta, my former party, transitioned, not under the same mandates. I'm not sure what that party is now today, but that was there. Marilyn Burns, Alberta Advantage Party, there. We saw Paul Hinman, Wild Rose Independence Party, there, who actually overtook the Alberta Party 3-1. That is, for all intents and purposes, the Liberal Party of Alberta, just like UCP being the Conservative Party we see in Canada. It's a version of it, a provincial version. So, and the official Liberal Party ran too. Decimated as was the Independence Party, as was Alberta Advantage Party. The only major ground made up was actually by Paul Hinman's Wild Rose Independence Party of Alberta. We saw NDP take a substantial amount of loss, massive loss. When you look at the vote splitting that people usually refer to, if you factored that in as any kind of indicator, Brian Jean should have had just a narrow victory. But I can tell you this, when you look at the population of Fort McMurray, Lac La Biche riding before 2019 and now in 2022, you see a mass exodus. You do, a large portion of people packing it in. There's a lot of factors. Economic is number one, regardless of what people believe about the fire and the homes destroyed. That was not the first round factor. It's economics. You need to have employment. The oil sands has been hit hardest in all of Canada with the federal agendas we've seen on the table. Has everything worked out for Canadians across the board? I think clearly, with mortgage rates now growing, with the increased interest rates coming on, that we're going to see every 3 months, tick by tick, with the devastating consequences to the household budgets. We're watching rising inflation, highest not seen now since 2008 and soon to be going over that, taking us back into the 70s territory. Cost of living, all things aside, unbelievable. Unbelievable when you factor in the stagnant growth of wages. The government says, well, we have to curb consumer spending. That's the problem. Raise interest rates. It's not going to work. All agendas only lead to worse and worse recessionary indicators. This is a last chance for Alberta. It's a last chance for Canada. Brian Jean's resounding win, which I know all the players, every single person who ran in that by-election, and I've tagged them all in this post. They're all friends of mine. They've all been through thick and thin with me over the years. I've always maintained my loyalty to Brian Jean. In fact, I built the Alberta Independence Party originally for Brian Jean. He stuck to his guns, a very smart analyst, very well-rounded individual with a deep love for Alberta and Canada. Even in my years of anger, he remained steadfast, solid. He saw that there is an ability to fix Canada. So I pursued that. I've spent years on that. I'm trying to build a federal party. COVID's been a key issue. There's been massive division, and there's been a lot of propaganda and misinformation. It's not Canadians' fault, but it has slowed me down considerably to reinvest my time and energy to regrow that and reestablish a new party. It's important. A strong foundation leads to a strong future. Brian Jean has all the markers needed to get the job done. There's a lot of people throwing him flack. I know the man inside and out, and I can tell you all this. You don't know enough. Brian is not one for going up in personal context, but I can tell you when it comes to healthcare, there's no one out there today with such a personal connection to just how devastating a broken healthcare system can be. Brian wishes to strengthen that. If you don't know the story, look it up. It's sad. It's one of the worst things could happen to somebody. I know I have a similar situation myself. I'm lucky I didn't lose a child. But Brian cares so much. I've never seen a platform in healthcare as detailed, as put in so much time and energy as Brian Jean's. I would have loved to copy it. It was just grandiose. It is such an evolutionary process for the province of Alberta and as a platform for absolutely the rest of Canada. But I've brought all the tags here today, from separatists to autonomists to 51st staters to those looking for a better deal in Canada. All the players, all the groups, and all their narratives. It all begins and ends with constitutionalism, ladies and gentlemen. I've come to that reality that there is no independent Alberta, there is no autonomous Alberta, there's no fixing Canada without tackling the number one source of all our grievances, and that is the Constitution of Canada, 1867, with the 1982 consolidation, which includes the Charter, the former Bill of Rights for Quebec. Ladies and gentlemen, I have embarked on a massive road led by Brian Jean and his closest followers. Good friends, loyal to Brian Jean, brought me to the Alberta Faculty of Law, where I first met Richard Albert and began my 3-year-long road in constitutionalism, where I've been far past Richard, not just in Richard's circle, but like anything, I never stop. Phone calls, should have turned off my notices. I've always tried to take things and take it to the fullest extent of the educational process, which is what I've done. I've gone long past Richard Albert onto the whole world to get a full spectrum, and I've done that. I have the world's greatest experts Following this video, I'm going to go back into the title and put the YouTube Alberta Legislature presentation, my last presentation to the legislature until now, Brian Jean's win. You can watch that. You can get in touch with Richard Albert. He's a good friend of mine. He's on my friends list. He did a presentation, a serious one, that goes through the detailed cost of doing an Alberta Constitution. And just so every Canadian knows, 1867, under Section 92 in Section 5 of the 1867 Constitution, calls upon all premiers to write constitutions, to hold conventions. It's a power unto each and every premier. Rules of governance, how to govern, and absolute accountability. Because I promise all Canadians, there is none. There's absolutely none, which is a great destructive reality of what Canada is and one of the number one faults of Canada, besides the Crown invested power that is 2/3 of the Constitution. It removes all Canadians from the Constitution, all the First Peoples, and absolutely vests the power and the divine right of those you elect, giving them godlike status. This is a regurgitation of a system of governance from the age of empires. That's reality. A system that largely doesn't exist in the world. And in fact, since World War II, when you read the UN Charter, it is outlawed. It is outlawed. The law of sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen, is number one worldwide. This was to be educated to you. It hasn't been done. Right now, today, this morning, Mary Simon and Queen Elizabeth II are trying to negotiate deals with Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait for oil for Canada, because heaven forbid we ever took our third place oil reserves in Canada, the Great Lakes of natural gas under Alberta, and utilize that Canada-wide. That would be a no-no. Sovereignty is not for Canada or any Canadians. And even though the 1867 Constitution calls for it, it's not to be. It's not to be. Which means your government is working unlawful, meaning the highest law of the land, even that cruddy 1867-1982 Constitutional Act of Canada, they won't even follow the highest law of the land, which calls on the premiers to cement the Section 92. Why is this important, Canadians? Why is it important? Because 2/3 of the most important rights available to you are found there. Number one being property rights, not a small task. If you haven't seen my address in the Alberta Legislature, where many of Jason Kenney's MLAs are interested, many. He's in a lot of trouble right now. There is one man who can defeat Jason Kenney. And that battle, everybody, is only 4 days away, technically. Jason Kenney is so fearful of Brian Jean, he basically closes the window on UCP memberships in 4 days' time to be able to even vote on the leadership review in Red Deer, Alberta, April 9th. A leadership review that normally, now with Brian Jean on board and many Canadians wanting to get involved in, won't be able to happen. I urge Marilyn Burns, Paul Hinman, Derek Fildebrandt, Benjamin Abel, and absolutely Teres Baba to reach out to all Alberta separatists, Alberta autonomists, Alberta 51st staters, Alberta just not happy in the system that is Canada wants a fair deal. All of you need to sweep all that aside. Ignore all your feelings and get behind Brian Jean. If you've not seen Dr. Richard Albert's monumental presentation, it will alleviate, not everything, it's not all of it, but Albertans. More than 60% of the land in Alberta is not available to you, not available to the First Peoples of Alberta. 49 of them. We can change all that, at least a good portion. We can't deal with the federal land. We can't deal with the federal government, but I can promise every Canadian watching this today, all my loyal friends and followers, just by enacting what I wish to do federally, just in the provincial context, you have the ability to transform Canada forever. Because I promise you, if Alberta was to settle that massive land's unsettled now, and every Alberta got a slice of Alberta, it would change every Canadian across the boundary. All of a sudden, the prices go down. All of a sudden, investment floods into Alberta, not the rest of Canada. While we're going down the toilet, all of a sudden, America, Europe, everywhere in the world is all of a sudden investing in you, Albertans, into what you have under strict conditions in a real constitution. This constitutional process is not short. It's long, but it's legal, and it can be done by the wave of the magic wand called Premier of Alberta. Brian Jean would see this through. If Richard Albert and a team of glorious experts from around the world, if somebody had put something like that together, for not a cost of 10 million, if you watch Richard's presentation, Richard's missing the First Peoples. I'm going to be highlighting all of that. It's about $13 million for the province of Alberta in real constitutional conventions. A little bit more cost, Albertans, than your last referendum. Your last referendum was about 12 million total. This would be $13 million. That is basically 1,000 referendums in one, where every Albertan, not political parties, and I'm not slamming anyone here, not Derek Fildebrandt, Paul Hinman, Marilyn Burns, Benjamin Abel, or Terrace Coley-Bob's visions, which there's nothing wrong with them. What I'm talking about is vesting for the first time ever the power in the people in real constitutional conventions, in every community, every reserve, in every available minority language selected by the Alberta citizens. If you're Ukrainian, you'll get it by a Ukrainian world-class expert. If you're Polish, you get it by Polish experts from Poland. If you're from Africa, Somalia, Nigeria, goes on and on, we have all of those languages covered. I can go on and on. I have over 162 experts in that many languages. More than that, much, much more than that. I have all the American constitutional experts. I have every crafted American Indian constitution in all the languages missing from Canada. Alberta, you don't have this problem. Other regions in Canada do, specifically the unceded regions like BC, Quebec, Ontario, and some Atlantic Canada, especially BC, where all those cultural languages are missing because the Canadian First Peoples, the Canadian Indian, was completely eradicated, extinct from those regions. There is a crossover from America imposed and in place by the American government today, giving the power to the Canadian Indian to come back and forth with the American Indian as often as they like, and vice versa, including going to their historical lands. Canada's Supreme Court had to acknowledge it. The Crown had to give that to America because it would mean a gross violation of human rights. We can build on that. I can bring forward all those languages, but for just the provincial constitutionalism for Alberta, there are no missing languages. We can provide that. That's why it's $13 million in every reserve, in every band office, every community center for all the First Peoples in Alberta. Again, this isn't the end-all and be-all. This is the provincial portion. It doesn't address all the federal land, but it's a start. And those 49 can see a massive amount of land released to all the Canadian Indians. And when you talk about Alberta, this is also from Métis and Inuit. Métis largely settled. Alberta was the only province to settle the Métis Nation in reserve Indian lands, crown lands. And it was those provincial lands. But now we can do the rest for the absolute First Peoples, the Canadian Indian. A mass amount of land released to you. Massive. Unlike anything ever seen in Canadian history, larger than the settlement done in America, which still today blows Canada right out of the water. For the rest of Albertans, a massive amount of land split with the First Peoples released to you. That's never been made available to you, and you all together, First People and Albertans, can cement constitutionally what the rules are in regards to all of that. It's not my place to tell you what the rules are. I can give advice, I can watch the process go forward, audit it, keep up with it, work with the experts, but it's you bringing forward your ideas, your wants, your needs, what you want to see in a constitution. Those experts, going back to every country in the world and all their examples and their historic failures, their massive successes, will share with you where your ideas worked, where they fell flat, and why, in real historical accuracy. An education, a presentation none of you have ever been made available to ever in the history of the world, brought to you from everywhere in the world, the best minds in the world, credited, published, and reality. It's for every Albertan. You get to deal with your labor, work, property rights, the list goes on and on. There is so much provincially in that equation to do. It doesn't solve all of Canada's problems, but it releases a tremendous amount of wealth. True reconciliation, at least for the Alberta Indian, the Métis, and absolutely the Inuit overlap of Treaty 8. Your water concerns go. Things like water is life can be brought forward for the first time ever. Largely Alberta observes that now, but there's more work to do on it. You'd be surprised what's been written and done worldwide, just south of us in the border. You should see the massive content on property rights, water rights in America under each state. Canadians have no idea. Being absolutely protected in law. Having the law work for you, the people. These are concepts foreign in Canada. They've been foreign since 1867. Regardless of how you feel about what the system is today, you can literally overtake a vast majority of it just by getting behind Brian Jean. And what does that mean? Today, for all Albertans, it is so important this one time, right now, in a low window. Jason Kenney is a scumbag. He's done this game many times. He wants a rush, as he's very, very shocked and disappointed at the resounding win by one Brian Jean, his arch nemesis. Jason has targeted Brian. He's targeted all of us who put the people first, because Jason Kenney doesn't put the people first. I think all Albertans know that now. Even NDP bleeds out at an alarming rate. It is up to Brian Jean now, folks. Regardless of your differences of opinion, the one uniting factor is the fact there has never been a provincial constitution in the history of Canada. Again, called for since the day the 1867 was signed, sealed, ratified. However that was done, however wrong that was done, is not the issue. The issue is it was left there for the premiers to do that. And should a premier do that, it will change the path that Canada is on today. and it will be the beginning of the end of the crown. Whether you're a separatist, whether you're a 51st stater, whether you're an autonomist, whether you're a fix Canada and a fair deal kind of person, all that aside, you need constitutionalism. If you don't believe me, just look south at the United States of America. Just look across the Arctic to not so far away, the Russian Federation. They're not losing what propaganda everybody's saying. They're doing very well. How do they remain so strong? Well, that's called real true federalism with regional constitutionalism. You can't hold such a vast country together in these kind of times without constitutionalism. I don't care what anyone tells you, systems of governance. That's what you're told here in Canada, because nobody wants to highlight the fact that the more constitutionalism embraced, especially in regionalism through federalism, a system very foreign throughout the world, you'll find the strongest empires. Ethiopia is going through a civil war on federalism right now. Minimized, completely minimized. If you want to take a change that will actually do something and start the rest of it, you have to begin with constitutionalism. And that is not, ladies and gentlemen, a small group of people writing a document for a vast majority of those they wish to govern. I love constitutionalism. I have the best experts in the world, and do you know what I say to all of that? Well, I've mastered it. I would not, for the life of me, after everything I've learned worldwide, ever attempt to write a constitution and blanket it over 4.2 million people or all of Canada, 38 plus million people. I would never do that. You all need a say. You all need to learn civics for the first time in your life. The UN Charter 1945 called for an education to every citizen of the world. Canada signed that document, bound themselves, agreed to the conditions. In those conditions, you were all to get that education in school. I went to school K to 12. I went on to college, university, maybe limited by some standards, not highly accredited. Nonetheless, I completed my programs. I got my degree. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. In all of that, I never, ever learned anything about any civics worldwide or here at home in Canada. I never learned about any constitutionalism outside of the corporate structure, very limited. That's not by accident, folks. And we're not alone. 75% of the world's like this. That's not what people fought and died for in World War II. It's not what the Allies fought and died for. And it's up to all of you at home to make the difference. I go forward with Brian Jean because he's the last chance at getting constitutionalism done for the first time in Canadian history for a province or a territory. Never been done since the inception of Canada. Called for, go read your constitution. It's backed up many times. Section 5 completely hammers it home, but under Section 92 for the provinces and territories, it is there. It is there. Black and white. But yet no premier wants to lose their complete and full autocratic power. Jason Kenney wants none of it. Wants none of it. It's clear. I addressed the legislature just weeks ago. He wants none of it. MLA's interested. They're not going to get it. Not with Jason Kenney. He will not allow the federal system to be usurped. He believes in a federalism of crown. An authority that he is God over all Albertans when he sits as premier. It's wrong. It's wrong for any organized religion. It's wrong for many civil societies, yet they remain silent. They remain silent. Corruption or I don't know. It's wrong. It's wrong. You all have an opportunity in a very, very limited window if you live in Alberta. As painful as the times are, as painful as it is to buy a UCP membership, I would if I could. I can't. Brian Jean will, if he wins, give me back a membership to the UCP. I was removed. 2 different EDAs tried to bring me back. Jason Kenney blocked me at every opportunity, as he has a lot of folks. But I urge everybody, in 4 days' time, buy a UCP membership before the 19th. Get down to Red Deer. Cast your leadership review vote against Jason Kenney. Say Jason Kenney must be replaced. You want to change the world? You want to change Canada forever? Get down with real constitutionalism. Put the faith in your fellow mankind. I love Alberta. I love Canada to a degree. I don't like the first class system. I've never, ever kept any secret about that. For the most part, I can't stand any of the politicians. I've watched them decimate Canada. Internationally, we are decimated. Don't kid yourselves, Canadians. We are in the worst time of our life. But with the snap of a finger, the right kind of leader coming forward, even in a province, can effectively change Canada forever. Use what's given to you. Do the constitutional conventions. My friend Richard Albert and a pile of academics can be brought forward. We can reach every community, every reserve, town hall, right across Canada from one remote region to another. All of them, for $13 million, and education can be brought to all of you. Your questions, your concerns, your ideas, your proposals will all be brought to light. Can you imagine having the greatest minds for the first time ever interacting with you, the average Joe Jane Canadian? If you're over the age of 18, it will make it to you, even in every reserve across Alberta. Every single one. That is the only way to go forward. And I promise you all, Canadians, this can be done. Albertans, you can transform Canada for the first time ever for the better, worldwide and domestically. The amount of wealth you can release to the people that will radiate across Canada will be unmeasurable. Every Canadian, if they weren't down with constitutionalism before, they will be. The amount of investment that pours in to that region upon a settlement of the claims, at least the provincial Crown land claims, and the new viability of a nation within a nation, at least provincially, bringing the First People, and First Peoples, think about this, bringing you from limited federalism, meaning none at all, highest level municipalities as high as you go with no ability to collect any taxes for yourself, manage your own government, no self-government, no self-determination, and absolutely zero settlement of claims. For the first time, at least a good portion of one region, you can get settled for the 49. Showing a path forward for all of Canada. And watch all Canadians go, what? As Albertans get a boom in private property. Cemented in real constitutionalism. Rules of governance, how to govern, and absolute settlement of the claims. Half the equation, it's more than half when you look at how much land distribution it is. It's not the end all and be all, but it's a massive start. Every Canadian will want the same as Alberta going forward. You're going to say, why didn't we do this all those years ago? Well, that's easy. The Crown didn't want you to have it. World War II said, do this. The UN Charter told you this is where you got to go. Your politicians said, They put the crown on their head, and they said, no way. All of them did. All of them. All the parties are corrupted. We're down to good men and women. Brian Jean is one of the best. If anyone wants to know how I got on my road to constitutionalism, where my monumental work started, it started with Brian Jean and Steve Thompson, one of his most loyal party insiders, a great friend. It was Steve Thompson who brought me to Richard Albert. From there, I did the entire world because I never just stop at a little. I always go way past the point anyone could ever fathom. That's what I did. And I promise you, from Africa to Asia to China to Russia to Poland to Ukraine, it doesn't matter. I have the best of the best. Across the Middle East, India, I got so many from India. America, the most ever. UK, massive amounts. France, it goes on and on and on. We can do something that no one's ever done. And I only know one man who could get that job done, and that's Brian Jean. Folks, if you're in Alberta, as painful as it is right now, as hard as that is, I'm telling you, buy a UCP membership right now. You only have 4 days. Whatever it takes, get down to Red Deer April 9th with your membership and vote Jason Kenney out. Call for a new leader. Do that in that vote. Let Brian fix Alberta, which will in turn fix Canada, which will in turn change the status of Canada forever. Because I promise you, it will spread through all the provinces. All of a sudden, everyone's going to be campaigning on it. Next thing you know, all the provinces are turning. And you know what happens when 7 provinces go through constitutionalism? Because they all want their booms too. They all want their power too. Then the pressure goes on the federal government. And then you will see the federal government and all the federal parties enacting it too. Because the will of the people will be too strong. Because look how much prosperity is for the Albertans, and look at the rest of us. What is going on here? What are we? And it will be a massive spotlight. Look at Alberta. Look at the First Peoples of Alberta, and look at the rest of racist Canada. It can be done. It will be done. And Richard Albert, my good friend, maybe in our lifetime, I always try to push to make theory a reality. I try to do that, my friend, and that's what this is. This is a second chance, Richard. It's no longer in the realm of fiction. We are this close again. And mind you, 85% of the time I get beat down, but you'd always get up. You always find another way. And I promise you, Albertans, whether you want to hear it or not, this is the way. This is one action, the greatest action that any province could ever do. And that's Brian Jean. If you have any gall, any gonads right now, get the membership, bite the bullet, as sucky as that is. You know how many political memberships I've bought over the years just to influence? It's a small price to pay. It's a gamble, is it? Yes. Is Jason Kenney dead set against this? Are the Laurentian elite dead set against this? Absolutely. But Brian Jean never quit. Brian Jean's right there. And it's your chance, everybody, regardless of how you feel over the years, hurt feelings report in politics, what narratives you wanted. You must look at the big picture. Constitutionalism. It fits all of you because you can't have independence without it. You can't become a 51st state without it. You can't get autonomy without it. Not real autonomy. You can't get a fair deal in Canada without it. All roads lead to constitutionalism. Get it done. Get that membership. Vote Jason Kenney down on the 9th. Has to be done. This is where it rides on the little people. Or you can let all the rich PC insiders, all from Calgary, show up. Jason's a good job. Jason's a good job. Is that what you want, Albertans? You always want to be tossed aside? It's a tight window. Jason's putting the fix in, but you got to stand up and show him, like Fort McMurray showed everybody. You've got to get the job done. You've got to get Jason Kenney out. The only way to do that, whatever party you are, NDP, Alberta Party, Liberal. You can see all of you, separatist, 51st stater, autonomist, fair deal. All of you got to come together, bite the bullet, buy the memberships right across Alberta. Do it. Less than 4 days now. Get Jason out of there. Give Brian Jean the chance to win. If you didn't notice the vote tallies, NDP went down double digits. They were polled at 32%. Their vote was 16%. Paul Him in third place, 10%. Talk about vote splitting. Fort McMurray knows what needs to be done. Rest of Alberta, do you know what needs to be done? If you're an NDP supporter, do you really want to gamble on Rachel Notley versus Jason Kenney? Or do you want to gamble on a guy like Brian Jean, who, if you don't know his life story and his Alberta healthcare, and you've never seen his platform on healthcare, the most detailed, comprehensive healthcare portfolio in a real electoral platform ever released. I saved it all. If you haven't seen it, it's monumentous. We talk about public sector unions and the rest of it. Do you want to wrestle with Jason Kenney, or would you rather put it in Brian Jean? Because you have a choice. Rachel versus Jason or Rachel versus Brian Jean. Alberta Party. Do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? Liberals, do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? Alberta Separatists, do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? Autonomists, do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? 51st Staters, do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? I don't want to see Jason Kenney going forward. Fair Deal panel people, do you want to see Jason Kenney go forward? I don't think so. Rally, rally, rally. It's only 4 days left. Does it suck to give UCP money after the horrific last 3 years? Of course it does. Of course it does. I don't like to do it either. And I would do it like I've done many times for many parties. But the problem is, it has to be done. You have to bite that. You have to take the gamble. Does it suck if it doesn't work out? Sure. Jason got richer. Well, he's going to get richer by robbing all of you anyway. If you haven't watched his unbelievable high school ass grow to the worth $20-some million mark, I don't know what to tell you. Apparently Jason Kenney is the greatest New York Stock Exchange broker. Apparently he can personally invest like nobody else in New York. He's the greatest. The greatest. High school graduate. That's it. But apparently he's the worst provincial investment ever. Lose, waste billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. Somehow Alberta's lost worse under Jason Kenney than any other premier for more than 60 years. Isn't that sad? But you gotta trust him, because we're lucky that there's strife in the world, that the markets are crazy, that Saudi Arabia and the OPEC nations have told Canada, pound sand. And now prices are $1.30 a barrel. We can all say, yay. Oh, but you don't have a pipeline for all that wealth generation. You're relying on what limited you have. And they're calling for you to cut back more. You're lucky OPEC's telling them to go pound sand. But still, with all of that, what market share does Canada get for all of that? The answer is zero. 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 You can't trade interprovincially. You can't build any projects interprovincially. And you're cut off at the border, south. Joe Biden will not release it. You're done. You're cut out of any future expansion. Canada gets zero as it stands right now. You need constitutionalism. Oil and gas are not the end-all and be-all. It's important for Alberta, but there's a way to effectively change Canada. And I'll be there every step of the way in all the constitutional processes. Thanks, that's my video. Share, share, share. It's all for Canada. It's all for Alberta. It's all one. We can change this country together. It starts right there in Alberta this time around. Thanks, God bless, that's my video. Share, 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 and again, congratulations, Brian Jean. And Richard Albert, if you're not paying attention, I will email you later today, and I'm going to make some phone calls. I did chat via text with Brian Jean a little bit. We still have to have that phone call. But it's glorious. It's glorious. There is a chance, more than a chance, a start of something better. The more regions we can get involved in this, the better. And it starts right now with Brian Jean. One province is all it takes. God bless. Have a great day. Bye now.